make all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good. make all the demons quiet. Yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh
control that chaos, to keep it a little bit more under control, we've divided Combat Information Center into 5 modules. So back in every carrier's like this. The far corner back there is the air detection and tracking. That's exactly what it sounds. We detect and track air contact. And then the other side of this bulkhead. So you all know what a bulkhead is, by the way? It's a wall. So what are y'all standing on? What's that called? No, it's not a floor. It's a deck. So what is the overhead called? It's called an overhead. So anyway, air warfare is where we control. Seen the movie Top Gun? Good answer. So Top Gun, that's where that would happen. We control our fighter defense there. Far corner back in the very, where that silver bar is, those 2 folks back there, is our electronic warfare module. We monitor the electromagnetic spectrum. What does that mean? If a ship or aircraft turns a radar on, we can see it. And we can see it much further than what we can see on our radar. It's very important. So we get more situational awareness because we can see that emitter. We don't know exactly where it is, we just know what direction it's emitting from. But we know it's an air search radar off of a frigate, off of a Russian frigate. We can identify it that way. And then the 2 other tables there in that area behind you is where we do surface detection and tracking, and we also back up the bridge in navigation, either with radar or satellite. Finally, this is display and decision, this little triangle here. We have a strike controller here who takes the aircraft from the carrier air traffic control, which is basically an airport tower. They check that aircraft in over here via radio. He does what's called a modes and codes check. You'll see it pop up here on this identification friend or foe box, UK59. They have got a good sweet switching button, whatever. So we now see that aircraft and we can identify it as a friendly. Very important. If we can't see that, there's a potential that we'll get shot down. So that's once we get a good modes and codes check, they go out on their mission. Could be bombing, or maybe it's a fighter. We're going to send them over here to air warfare and the AIC, air intercept controllers over here. Finally, we have the ship's weapons coordinator. So when this ship was built in World War II, it had 18 5-inch 54 cannons and over 100 smaller 3-inch and below. Today we have 2 weapon systems. We have a NATO Sea Sparrow, shoots about a 15-mile surface-to-air missile, and we have a Phalanx Gatling gun system. Shoots upwards of, depending on the model, 2,700 rounds a minute of 20-millimeter rounds. Just spray steel up there, and hopefully we'll knock the missile down. And how does all this work together? We have a layered defense to protect ourselves. Our aircraft, number 1 defense, out at range. They're doing a donut out there, spinning in circles in case we see something, and we'll direct them out there to engage that. The next layer of defense is our cruisers, destroyers, and frigates that have upwards of 100-mile surface-to-air missile. And then we have this gentleman here, or woman today, is here to engage that. If this person gets all agitated and excited, I know something's coming. My lifeboat station is over there somewhere, and I just might go check it out. But once they get in there, this is the last-ditch effort to protect ourselves. Now, a lot of people said, well, what about submarines? Well, we don't have sonar, but we have escorting us typically 1, if not 2, attack submarines. LA class, Seawolf class. They're out there to engage other bad submarines that are trying to mess with us. And then we have aircraft that have anti-submarine warfare capabilities, such as sonars and torpedoes, and our ships that help with that. They have sonars. We stand a 6-hour watch in here. We'll go off watch and we'll do our work, because this is watch. Work is separate, because we can't call in a cleaning service or a maintenance team. We got to do that ourselves. So now we do training, maintenance, administration, come back up on watch for 6 hours, then we go off watch. That's after about an 18-hour day, and we'll just play shuffleboard in the night. No, we don't have that. So I'm trying to get a few hours sleep. Average day in my 23 years on a ship, 8-month deployment, was 18 hours. What questions have you? There's a 10-question test before you leave. You have to at least get passing scores. Still no questions? Well, I thank you. The Midway thanks you. Most importantly, my wife thanks you, because I'm bothering you and not her.
Thank you for the service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At a tailhook squadron,
And he has responsibility for the 200 people who work on the flight deck, the people who work on the hangar deck, an area 2,500 feet above the ship and within a 5-mile radius of the ship. That's his direct responsibility. He has an assistant. We call him a mini boss. We don't call him mini because he's short. We call him mini because he's in training to become the air boss. And after a year's time, he fleets up, as we like to say, and becomes the air boss. 2 high-stress, highly responsible jobs. Nothing for them to spend 8 or 10 hours or more in these chairs, depending on the flight schedule. And one of the things they rely on is this board. It's called a launch status board. It's on a hinge. Swings around so they can see it over their shoulder at a glance. So for each of the launches, we write it 8 or 9, again, depending on the flight schedule. We put the side number of the aircraft, the pilot's name, and the mission that that pilot is on. The names that are currently on the board are missing in action, killed in action, and POWs from the Vietnam era. One of the amazing things about this board is the young man who wrote on it wrote backwards with a grease pencil so it could be read from the front. And when he wrote home to his mother to tell her how things were going at sea, she had to take the letter in and hold up in the bathroom mirror, if you know what I'm saying. Along the window here, we have a series of boxes, and inside each box is a manual, a technical manual, known in the Navy as a NATOPS manual. And the people that stand along the windows here are junior officers from each of the squadrons that has an airplane airborne. The reason here is very simple. If, in fact, we have an airborne emergency of some type, it's entirely conceivable the boss and mini boss may not have flown the kind of airplane that's having a problem. But we have someone current in the airplane standing right here. So the boss will turn and say, we have a problem, what's the answer? If they don't know off the top of their head, they have a manual. They can look up the answer, pass it to the boss, who passes it to the aviator airborne, so we get the flight crew and the aircraft safely back aboard Midway. In addition to those personnel, there's some other people who work in this space. One is operating this device. This is a monitoring device. Down on the flight deck, we have 3 what we call arresting gear cables or cross-deck pennants. Those cables are designed to catch the tail hook of the aircraft coming aboard and bring it to a complete stop. Underneath each of those cables is what we call an arresting gear engine. It's an elaborate system of pulleys and cables and a very large cylinder filled with glycol and a plunger going through that system and a valve that we can adjust to let the flow of glycol out of that system commensurate with the amount of resistance necessary to stop an airplane that weighs 40 or 50,000 pounds and 340 feet. So if you're up here in primary flight during flight operation, you might hear something like this: Phantom Ball 5000. Phantom is an F4. F4 Phantom is right down there. Ball means I'm on glide slope, and 5,000 means I have 5,000 pounds of fuel in my airplane. That tells the people in the arresting gear engine room, number 1, what kind of airplane you're flying. Number 2, how much fuel you have on board, so they can set the what we call the max trap weight correctly. We need to have that information correct, because if we overstress that system, it can be very costly and very time consuming to fix it. The other person operates this device. This device is connected to what we call the Fresnel lens. Lens itself on the port side of the ship over here. But this is what it looks like. What it does is it projects a beam of light after the ship, 3/4 of a mile, 3.5 degrees. That beam of light is the glide slope that the pilot's flying down. So visualize a funnel. The top and bottom are about 24 feet top to bottom at 3/4 of a mile, and then at the threshold of the flight deck, it's about 2 feet. So you're trying to fly down the center of a funnel, and what you're trying to do is keep that ball, we call it the ball because it looks like a ball, centered on the green reference grid. The green reference grid represents the horizon. So if you're above the horizon, you have to take power off the airplane. If you're below it, you have to add power. If you're in this bottom quadrant, it's going to turn red. That's a warning sign, and you're going to hear in your headset from the landing signal officer, wave off, wave off, wave off, because you're in too low, too close, you put yourself, your aircraft, and everyone on the flight deck at risk. But assuming for a minute that you're on glide slope, the moment you touch down, you go to full power, because if you miss the cable should happen to break, which is very rare, you have to have enough end speed to get airborne, get back in the pattern, come back and try it again. So all this does is set the distance between the pilot's eye and the tail hook on a variety of different size airplanes we have aboard Midway. So at this moment, we're going to move to our second stop, which is the chart room. So just follow, if you would, please. Navigator. And the navigator, like the boss and mini boss, is a senior Navy commander. He's had a tail hook squadron as well. And he, along with his quartermasters, are here to help the captain navigate the ship. They tell the captain where we're headed, where we are at the moment, and where we've been, and they chronicle all that information with a log. Now, the quartermaster in the Navy is unique because they are subject matter experts in navigation. The term quartermaster in any of the branches of service has to do with the supply corps. We use a lot of charts. This chart represents Yokosuka, Japan, where the ship was home ported for the last 17 of its 47-year service life. The USS Ronald Reagan was over there for a number of years. The George Washington was there for a number of years, and the George Washington just went back, as a matter of fact, about 4 months ago. Chart here on the counter represents San Diego Harbor, where we currently are anchored. And the chart over there in the case represents Subic Bay in the Philippines, which was a major R&R facility during the Vietnam era. I was over there on a 9-month cruise in and out there 6 or 7 times. Huge base. QB side was where the airfield was, so that's where the carriers came in. Subic side, the destroyers, cruisers, and smaller vessels like a frigate. Not only was it an R&R facility, but a repair facility as well. We use a variety of methods to navigate. The first one I might talk about is what we use when we're coming into a port like San Diego. It's called piloting. We're using known objects. I can see the tower at Lindbergh Field through that porthole, and over my shoulder you can see the Coronado Bridge. So what we do is we give our quartermasters a headset, put them on either side of the bridge, use a device called an alidade. We'll go by one on the way up the navigation bridge. And on the command of mark, they take a line of position to that known object. 2 lines of position gives us a fix. 3 is even more accurate. We can be accurate within about 100 feet or so using that methodology. Now at night in bad weather, we use radar to supplement that information. The second method is called celestial navigation. We use a device called a sextant. There's a picture of one there. There's actually a sextant in the case over there. The way it works is this: half hour before sunrise, half hour after sunset, and occasionally during the middle of the day. We use that sextant to measure the angle between a known heavenly body and the horizon. We do a mathematical calculation. We denote the time on some very accurate clocks we call chronometers. And we can be accurate within 1 to 3 miles using that methodology. Now, as time went on, electronics became more sophisticated. A method was developed called LORAN, or Long Range Aid to Navigation, or LORAN, which utilized radio beacons to discern where we were. And before the ship was decommissioned in 1992, we put on here a primitive form of what we all know today as GPS. That device at the end of the counter looks like a microwave oven. That was a GPS on Midway, accurate within about 30 meters or so. Today, with one of these things called a cell phone, you can probably get within 2 meters, with electronics being what they are. Last thing I want to mention before we leave here is this device on the bulkhead. It's what we call a fathometer. It's kind of a fancy word, but what it is a device that measures in feet and fathoms the distance between the bottom of the keel and the bottom of the ocean. Why is that important? Here's why it is. When we're coming in from the Pacific Ocean past Point Loma into the channel here in San Diego Harbor, the water is about 50 feet deep. The keel of the Midway as it floats here today is 29 feet below the waterline. That is not a lot of margin for error. And trust me when I tell you, the last thing the navigator and the captain want to have happen is to run aground, because that can seriously shorten your career. So, in many harbors, we have harbor pilots. They are subject matter experts in the local harbor. We bring them on. They, along with our navigation team, we could safely bring a ship the size of the Midway, 1,001 feet, in and out of a port like San Diego with no issues. So at this moment, we're going to move on to our third and final stop. They call it the navigation bridge, so just follow if you would, please. This is the alidade. This is the device we use to take a sighting on the bridge where the tower at Lindbergh Field's got a headset talking to his counterpart in the charter. The charter will help him bring the ship into a port like San Diego. So, welcome to what we affectionately call Vultures Row. The way it got its name is 200 people, average age 19, working on the fight deck, looking up, guys like me looking down, look like a bunch of vultures, therefore the name Vultures Row. But in reality what it is number one, a safe passageway between the chart room and the bridge. It's also a safe place to stand if you want to watch carrier operations when we're at sea. If you've never watched carrier operations, I would recommend you to go home, go to YouTube and put in carrier operations, especially night carrier operations. You get to see what I like to call a ballet, where these young people working in extremely difficult and dangerous conditions. It can be very hot, very humid, very wet, and more importantly, very dangerous from the standpoint that we are moving aircraft almost constantly in the fight deck. And so you could be run over by an airplane, hit by a propeller, sucked into an intake, or blown over the side if you don't have your head on a swivel. It's very important that you pay attention, and the average age is 19, so you can imagine what the task is for someone trying to supervise. Having said all that, I'm always amazed at what few incidents there are, and it's a tribute to number one, the amount of training they undergo before they go out, and number two, the amount of supervision they have when they're on the flight. I tell the story about being back in the day during the Vietnam era. I was on a photo reconnaissance squadron. We always flew with a fighter escort, and this particular night, a fellow named Jim was flying off in a fighter at midnight, launching at midnight, had a cold catch-up, which means the catapult did not function properly. So he didn't have enough end speed to get airborne, so he had to jump out of his aircraft. So he's coming down in the middle of the night with his parachute. So as he's coming down, an A4, this is an A4 over here, small airplane on the end with the yellow markings with a 301 on the nose. That's the kind of airplane that Senator John McCain was flying when he was shot down in Vietnam. So this A4 is taxiing up, and our friend Jim's coming down in his parachute. So where does he land? He lands right in front of the A4. It has to be 10 million to 1 odds that he would land there with the ship moving and everything going on. But he lands in front of the airplane, and his chute gets sucked into the intake. Now the good news is, as you can see, it has a small intake, so the chute went in, Jim didn't, but he's pinned up against the side of the cockpit. So he just reaches up and undoes the fittings and drops down, sort of casually walks down to medical to get checked out. I heard the story. I saw him the next morning in the ready room. To say that Jim was the ultimate Southern California laid-back guy would probably be an underestimation. I said, Jim, heard what happened last night. I said, stuff happens. What are you going to do? I mean, come on. You're kidding me. We've seen in the captain's chair over here. We have the gator chair. That's where the navigator would sit when he would come up with his charts and help the captain navigate the ship. The reason I said young lady sit here is because across the harbor we have one of the 3 nuclear-powered active-duty carriers. That's the Carl Vinson over there. We often have the Teddy Roosevelt. It was here until about a month ago. And then the third one is the Abraham Lincoln, and it was now in the Mideast. Lincoln is germane to my story because about 4.5 to 5 years ago, we had a change of command on the Lincoln. And we started our first female commanding officer of an aircraft carrier. Prior to that, no female had ever had command of a carrier. They've commanded cruisers, destroyers, and frigates, but never a carrier. There are only 11, and it's a very, very difficult job to get. Number one, you have to be many years in the Navy. You have to have many thousands of flight hours. You have to be a pilot, and you have to have had command of a deep draft vessel like an oiler before they give you command of a carrier. So it's a very, very select process, very hard to do, and the first person to do it was named Amy Ballerschmidt, helicopter pilot, did a great job, was promoted to Rear Admiral when she finished her tour as commanding officer of the Lincoln. So she broke the glass ceiling. When the Midway operated, it decommissioned in '92, there were no females on board. But if you went across the harbor and walked onto the Carl Vinson, that carrier across the way here, you find that 18% of the complement of that ship are women. They fly airplanes, they work on airplanes, they work on the bridge, they work everywhere men work, and do a mighty fine job, I might add. Captain Ernst was the last SEAL of the ship, huge responsibility. 4,500 people were his direct charge. There's no way in the world he does that job by himself. So he has what we call a watch team. The number one person on the watch team is the OOD, or officer of deck. Typically a Navy lieutenant, been in about 3 years, charged in writing by the commanding officer with the safe operation of the ship. And assistant OOD, twofold job. One, to be in training to be the OOD at some point. Number two, to be what we call the conning officer, which means he's giving speed and direction commands to our enlisted personnel and physically driving the ship, and we'll talk about them more in a minute. Third member of the watch team stood over here in front of this surface search radar, called the junior officer of watch. Primary responsibility, usually lookout, 4.5, port and starboard, is to keep a sharp eye around the ship to avoid the possibility of a collision. You may remember about 7+ years ago, we had 2 separate incidents where Navy destroyers collided about 2 months apart. They collided with foreign vessels, and 17 Union lives were lost tragically. So we are acutely aware of how important it is to keep an eye all around the ship to avoid that possibility. When we find a vessel in our immediate area, we plot them on this board. And one of the reasons I love the Navy is because we have acronyms for our acronyms. This board is called a skunk board, or surface contact unknown, or skunk. So any vessel in our immediate area, we plot them on the board, the range of bearing, and the closest point of approach to avoid the possibility of collision. As I often say, nothing good happens when ships collide at sea. Excuse me just a minute. Stepping in here to the pilot house, and stepping over here to the helm. This is the steering wheel. This is from whence the ship is driven right here. So this is the helmsman. He's out of 19 years old. I like to think of him at 18 of asking Dad for the keys to the car to go to the prom, and at 19 driving a 69,000-ton aircraft carrier through the Indian Ocean at 30 knots. Over here is the lead helmsman operating this device. This is called an engine order telegraph. There are 4 more of these on the ship, 1 in each of the engine rooms, and on command from the conning officer, he would put in, for example, I had 2/3 or a certain OPM. That information would be transmitted simultaneously in the 4 engine rooms. They would respond back if they had received the word. These 2 young men would trade jobs during the 4-hour watch. It was very common. Senior enlisted person up here on the bridge was called a bosun of the watch, typically a second-class petty officer. 3 primary responsibilities. 1, train our enlisted personnel. 2, make sure no one came up on the bridge that did not have a reason to be up here. This is not a playground. It's a very, very serious place to work. You have to really have your head in the game when you're up here on watch. There's 4,500 people's lives depending on it. Number 3, you would make announcements on this device on the back bulkhead called the 1MC. If I was on the 1MC right now, I would be heard no matter where you were on the ship. You could be in the forecastle, aft steering, chapel chow, up on the flight deck, on the hangar deck. No matter where you were working, you would hear a 1MC announcement. Very important things that the captain wanted everyone to hear at the same moment. Call your attention to the picture of the back bulkhead. It's a picture of what we call an underway replenishment. Unlike the call for incident across the harbor, which is nuclear powered, which you have to refuel every 25 years, we burned just a fuel marine and we didn't get very good mileage. We were burning between 100 and 200,000 gallons a day, depending on whether we were in peacetime steaming or in combat. So we would come alongside the oil, let's throw the lines over, bring the hoses over, hook them up, and start pumping. Capacity 2.3 million gallons of diesel fuel marine and 1.2 million gallons of aviation fuel. At the same time we're doing that, we're sending our helos over to pick up pallets of food because we were consuming 13,000 meals, that's 10 tons of food a day just to keep the crew of 4,500 fed. And at the same time, if we're in combat, we're sending our helos over to pick up pallets of munitions, bring more around and around and around. Peacetime steaming, underway replenishment about once a week. During Desert Storm, January 1991, where we were one of 4 carriers in the Gulf kicking Saddam out of Kuwait, underway replenishing 2 and 3 times a week because of the amount of ordnance being dropped in the 43-day war. And during underway replenishment, the captain and the conning officer over here in this space called auxiliary con, so they can be close to have the best viewpoint, as you can see how close the ships are to each other. Very important that you don't collide with another Navy vessel. And we saw an example of that this past summer, last fall, when the Harry Truman was coming out of the Red Sea, going into the Mediterranean, colliding with a commercial vessel. That captain was relieved almost overnight. So, speaking of the captain, when you go out, I want you to look to your left and see a berthing compartment. That's the captain's, that sea cabin. You had to be close to the bridge, so in case something happened in the middle of the night, and things often do, you can be awakened and brought up here to take control. But he also has an import cabin that when you go back on the flight deck, if you go to your left, you'll see a sign that says TFCC, stands for Tactical Flight Command Center. That's the Admiral's area. Walk through there, keep going through communications, ultimately you'll come to another berthing area. That's the captain's, import cabin. So that's the only time he used it was when we were in port, and he had plenty of room for guests for lunch or dinner, or if we happen to be in a foreign port to have a foreign dignitary on board. So we are now at the end of our tour. I want to thank you so much for coming aboard Midway today. We appreciate your patronage. We hope you have a great day, and please come back and see us on Midway. Thank you. We're going to go right to the yellow chain, down 3 levels, and be back on the flight deck.